Welcome back, everyone, to the Moms Like Me podcast powered by Support Now. I'm really excited about today's conversation. Although I'm under the weather, I didn't want to move this conversation any longer, so y'all will all have to just listen to my more nasally tones today. But today's conversation will be a little bit lighter than some of the conversations I've recorded in the past. Every once in a while you come across moms and entrepreneurs that just speak to you. And Molly Asplin, my guest here today, is one of those people. I think she and I align at a very high level on, of course, the dream of being a mom, but also the dream of creating a life that's very intentional and really centered in what makes you feel empowered and what makes you feel good, as opposed to what the world tells you you should do. And so, Molly, I'm just so grateful that you are willing and able to join us today.
I'm so happy to be here, and I love how you said that.
Well, good. So, Molly, again, you tell our listeners, you've got 3 children. Give us a little bit more of your background. I know we've talked in the past about how you were climbing that corporate ladder, doing the finance thing,
Yeah.
as we all like to say, checking all the boxes, and then something happened. And so just talk us through kind of where you were and then when you had this aha moment.
Yeah, so I got my college degree in finance, accounting, and I was like, "I'm gonna climb the corporate ladder and hopefully get to, like, C-suite someday, like, that's my plan." And I remember starting my corporate job out of college at a big corporation here in Minneapolis and just, like, walking in every day with my pencil skirt and my heels, and I'm like, "Yes, like, I've arrived." I don't know. And, I did that pretty like, for 2 years, just very mindlessly, like, "Yeah, I'm doing this thing." And then probably, like, year 3 to year 5, I just started to have these nudges. And the nudges were like, I don't think this is it. Like, I don't." And I know, Jordan, your nudges came a lot earlier. I don't think I even let myself go there earlier, but I just started to feel like the contributions and the strengths that I wanted to give to this world were not matching the work that I was doing.
Yeah.
But I felt a ton of, like, guilt, embarrassment, shame with it because, I had paid all this money for school and I didn't want to disappoint my parents. And I just had a whole bunch of stuff wrapped up in, like, this is the identity that I have to, like, carry forward with. But after a while, you start to feel really disaligned. And so I was 8 years in. And that is when I said, I really think I want to pivot and try to do something on my own. And that took a lot of unraveling, but that is the work that I do today is I help women really figure out what they want for the season of life that they're in, because a lot of times that clarity is just not there.
I think it's so interesting. And this is one of these, I feel like, more unspoken feelings that a lot, not just women, I think a lot of people experience
Oh, yeah,
this,
I think
especially,
it's men just as much, I agree.
yeah, especially achiever types. I remember really having this difficult reckoning when I first entered the workforce, because the way our education system is set up is, you make certain grades and you move up to the next one. You make certain grades and you move up to the next one. And then you go to college and you can get internships and you can get prestige and awards. And then they kind of just like drop you off into the real world. And for achiever types like myself, and I think you as well, it's really unsettling when you realize, oh, excuse my like, oh shit. Now I have to just figure out how to work this ladder. And I have to figure out, am I even on the right ladder to achieve, quote, happiness? And it's really, I think in a finance, and this, I want to unpack this a little bit with you. I think if you're going the finance path, I remember being envious of my friends that were going the finance path or even the lawyer path,
Sure.
because I'm like, well, at least you know what you need to do to get to where you want to go. If
Yeah.
you're not trying to be a doctor or a lawyer or on this corporate finance track, in some ways it's great because like the world's your oyster. And in other ways, you're like, again, oh shit, like, what am I actually going to do so that I can earn and feel good about myself? So my question is for you, you said you were 7 to 8 years in to your career when you were like, okay, what was the difference between what you felt 7, 8 years in versus what you felt early on? Like, was it just more significant?
Yeah.
And I want to like dig into a little bit more of what you said about the guilt and the shame. Like, was that the number one thing holding you back?
I don't think that was the number one thing. I think I was like, have I really done this for long enough to know? And
And
my mind, yeah, if you're right, Jordan, finance track, like basically it's like entry level, senior, manager, controller, like it is pretty well laid out. And so I went to, okay, I could like follow this path that's kind of here, or maybe I want to get into sales, or maybe I just need more fulfillment outside of work, or maybe I just need to like work on myself more.
yeah,
And so I was kinda, like, peeling back all the layers, just, like, experimenting with myself, and I also really thought as a high achiever that each promotion was gonna solve it. And so I kept climbing, and probably after, like, the 4th promotion, I was like, "This is all just a Band-Aid." Like, it's not actually solving my problem, and yes, I'm diversifying my skills, and I learned sales, and I got into that part of the business. So it all turned out to serve me well, as it does, but I think I needed to, I don't know, eliminate options, so to speak.
I think that what you just shared is also really important, though, that sometimes we can convince ourselves, well, if I can just get this promotion, if I can just get this role, then I will feel this this feeling of fulfillment. Then I will feel like I'm successful. And so often when you're misaligned with your role, you'll feel empty because
And
what you realize is that you're chasing something that's not really there. And I can appreciate, by the way, what you said is it's so important here, especially when you've committed so much money and time to a certain path to say, well, how do I know that I've given it enough time? So what were some of the things that you tried to do earlier in your career? Did you find mentors? Did you have like a committee of people that you could confide in to say, hey, is this supposed to feel like this? Or is this just hard and I'm not used to it? What were some of the ways that you kind of got through that?
yeah, mentors for sure. I was big on, like, networking within the organization, and not just so that I could climb more, but so that I could really understand, like, are these people happy? Do they
Right.
do they like what they're doing? And I think some genuinely did, and that's great. That's the path for a lot of people. But I remember one conversation I was having with one of my female mentors, and we were sitting in, like, the corporate cafeteria, and I was like, "I just need to ask you, like, a very real question." And she was like, "What?" And I said, "Do you think I can cultivate passion for what I'm doing? Because I don't like it. Like, it's not fun for me. I don't feel fulfilled, but do you think I can, try to, like, make myself like it?" And she just looked me straight in the eye and she was like, "No, I don't think you can." And
Mm,
it was almost like this permission, not that I needed permission, but it was kinda like I felt like she was telling me, like, "It's okay. Like, just, like, fly. Like, go do something else. It's okay." And so I remember a lot of conversations like that. There was, some people were just okay doing that and fulfilled enough, but for my personality and probably yours too, Jordan, like, it just didn't it
yeah.
wasn't gonna work for me until I was 65.
So when she said that, and I like the way you framed it, like effectively gave you permission to leave. Did that terrify you? Were you lit up? What were the emotions that you felt?
I think it gave me a lot of peace because I'm like, me staying here is not gonna solve this, like, conundrum that I'm in. Like, I need to figure out what I really want and, like, start betting on myself.
And so talk us through that pivot. Talk us
Yeah.
through kind of like what were the next weeks, months like trying to figure out what you wanted to be when you grew up, which is a funny thing to say, and I think it's an interesting question because as kids, you look at your parents and you say, "Oh, that's they know what they want to be when they grow up," or "This is what my parents do for a living." What you realize as an adult is that what you want to be when you grow up can change whenever you want.
Yeah.
So kind of what was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was over the so then that was, like, over the course of the next few years, like, kind of figuring it out what I was gonna do, and, I did some stuff on the side of my corporate job. I'm a very risk-averse person, so I was like, "I'm not just gonna leap and leave all, my steady paycheck and my benefits and all of that." But what I really did start doing was taking time for myself every morning. Like, I was a very go, go, go person, and I remembered I just started, like, giving myself quiet time in the morning. I started doing some personal development, started journaling, like, reading, like, books like The Miracle Morning and kind of these, like, entry-level personal development books that just got my mind thinking in a much more open way. I
You
grew up in a super, like, small town traditional family, and so no one around me, like, really thought differently than the traditional path. I started meeting other people who were, like, outside of corporate roles and female entrepreneurs. I remember I went to this conference that was like it was a lot of bloggers and writers I think I was the only one from corporate there. And I was like, wow, all these women in that situation was all women have created like lines of work that are their own. And so it just like I got in the room with other entrepreneurs and it just started to show me a different path.
That's so exciting when you see, oh, there's a different way of doing this. And you're
Yeah,
right. Part of the battle for a lot of people is if you've only been exposed to one way of earning and living,
totally.
you don't even know what's out there.
No. One other thing I did too during my corporate, it was in my last year of corporate. I hired a life coach. I barely knew her, but I was like, I don't know, I needed to like talk to someone about this. And I remember like after our hour session, she was like, it really sounds like you need to quit your job. And even then I was like, oh, I don't, I like still defended it. But sometimes I think you just need to hear a third party perspective, like share how you're really feeling. That really helped me too.
So Molly, where were you in your like personal journey? Were you married? Had you had children? Like kind of like web together where you were professionally versus where you were personally.
Yeah, we were married. My husband and I were married, both in corporate positions, both unfulfilled. And so we were both like, that probably didn't help matters, or maybe it did help matters, but we were both talking a lot about like, I don't know if this path is for us right now. Like, it seems like we need to explore other ways of working.
That's so funny that
Yeah.
you guys were both in the same mindset. What a doozy at night. How was your day, honey?
Yeah. Yeah, we were not happy, and we're like, 7 years out of college, like, what are we doing with our lives?
Wait, so I have to ask, is he still in the role or in the profession that he's in, or did he also pivot?
He also pivoted, yeah, so we've both done a few different things since then, and, yeah, he ended up getting into sales, and then, yeah, now he is back in, like, a big corporate position again, but in a different one, and I don't know, we've kinda navigated it around, but in ways that feel good for us, and that's what I think is really important for everyone to understand, and Jordan and I were talking about this before we recorded, is you have to give yourself permission to evolve. And, like, it's not a one size fits all, and what worked for me even 2 years ago with that season of life is different than what's working for me now with 3 kids, and they're a little bit older now. Like, I think every season kind of forces you to reevaluate, and I just don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a really healthy thing.
Thinking back, when was that one moment where you were like, "I know what I wanna do?" So you talked about, like, the entrepreneurship or the conference that you went to where you were amongst entrepreneurs and bloggers, but when did it strike? When did the idea of being this coach and really helping others kinda, like, find their voice, find their purpose click for you?
I don't know if there's one specific moment, Jordan, but I do know that when I started just verbally sharing how I was feeling to friends, colleagues, like I feel like I want to do something that feels more fulfilling and that aligns with my strengths, and they were like, people were just like, "Whoa, yeah, like me too." And then working with like some of my girlfriends on it, like, "Well, what do you think you would want to do?" And just I felt extreme passion when people would like share with me, kind of the things that they weren't sharing with other people on like their
Mhm.
life aspirations, how they wanted life to feel, what wasn't working. Like when people started opening up to me about like what wasn't going great in life or what was, I just like I found so much joy in like helping people with career transition, helping them look at it in a different way. I mean, I knew there was something there.
Were you exploring anything else at the same time? Like, were you testing different things, or did it become very clear to you early on that, like, you saw something that a lot of people struggle with this, and I'm gonna pursue it kind of casually with some friends to validate this hypothesis while also doing some other things, or how did you approach it?
Yeah, well, I have a big passion for health and fitness as well. And so I would teach fitness classes on the side. I was doing some online coaching. And I was like, there's definitely something here with health and fitness. But the more I would talk to women about what was really going on, it was always about so much more than a workout.
Mm.
It's like, yeah, okay, so you want to lose 10 pounds. Cool. But there was always like so much more to unpack. And what I really started to realize is like women and men, they want to feel good about what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Like they want to feel alive, they want to feel excited. They don't want to feel like sluggish and like they're going through the motions. Like they want to live this grateful life, but there's a lot of things around them that need work. And yeah, maybe their energy level and their health and fitness is a piece of it. But I could tell there was so much more to the equation.
So I know we've talked about this before, but you talk about a lot on your website, like doing the inner work. And I think
Mhm.
this is a phrase that like gets thrown out a lot, but what does that mean?
I think you have to start with reflecting honestly about like what no longer fits. And I think a lot of us are conditioned to, and you can make the analogy to health and fitness, like, well, I just want to do what I did before kids, or I
Mm.
just want to, work like I did in my 20s. And then life changes and your body changes and what have you. And you really need to evolve. And I think people have a lot of trouble with this, or they feel like they're failing if they can't do it like they once did. And so I think reflecting honestly is really important, and being able to like say that out loud, like, hey, that's not going to work for this season. And then really looking at current season and what expectations are realistic for right now. And I love to strive and I love to dream and I love to grow. And I have 3 kids and my husband works. And so I've had to like, I don't want to say tame it back, but I've had to just redefine success for the season that I'm in. Because what I was, doing before I had 3 kids just isn't gonna work now, and it doesn't make me less than, and it doesn't mean that I'm not, as high performing as I once was, but I think that requires a lot of inner work, is to redefine what success means for you right now in this season.
Yeah, I love this topic. I think about this a lot, and this is like you're effectively giving free therapy because so much of so much of what I hear from moms and parents in general, but moms especially, is that we are constantly seeking outside validation.
Yes.
The reward is, the money that you make or the prestige that you get, the promotions that you get, the acknowledgments. And what you're talking about is, it's super common, especially when mothers leave to have babies and go on maternity leave and they come back and they don't feel 100% aligned back with their business. They can't give it the same. They don't care the same. And again, our whole lives have been transformed. And then this crisis sets in for women where they say, "Well, what now? And how do I get back to that feeling of achievement knowing that my measurement of success is completely different?" And by the way, I think this is so tricky because I never believe what people tell me and they say, "Oh, I just don't care as much anymore. I just want to focus on my kids." And I think that that's like a half truth.
Yeah.
It's almost like a defense mechanism. "Oh, I don't care as much about how I do professionally or how much I make because I have my kids now." And I'm not saying that everyone's being truthful, but I just think that it's really hard for people to be honest because women and moms, we are asked to do so much, and we play such a different role in our culture today where we can be the breadwinner or we can heavily contribute to your household income,
Mhm.
where when you're not bringing that in, it can make you feel less than.
100%.
So is that something that you hear from your clients? And more importantly, how and you're giving me advice. How do you like, what is the advice to, like, work through that? Because it's so difficult when you feel like you've constantly been measured by your income level or by your status in a company, and
Uh-huh.
to see that go down, to have your fulfillment go up, or to feel like your value's going up.
Yeah, this is really real, Jordan, and I have lived it. Our kids are the exact same ages, and so that's, something to note too. But just to be super candid, I have been the breadwinner, and my husband has been the breadwinner. Like we've kind of switched roles, and that has ebbed and flowed. But what really helps me is this: like you have a very long career. We have a very long career to work. And so, like this last summer, I had to do a lot more logistical things with my kids, and I didn't have the capacity to sit down and earn like I would love to earn as much as I historically have. But I was at the camps and I was running my kids around. I was at the splash pad every Friday and I did all these things. And I really had to go inward and go, well, when I look at the big picture of my life, I am probably going to be more happier that I did that instead of sitting out and grinding it out at my computer to earn another 50K or something. I don't know. And so that helps me, but it's a mind game, and you do have to I've had to lean in a lot to intrinsic motivation, because you don't get external validation from your kids, right? Like, yeah, they might say that was really fun, or thanks for taking us, but a lot of times they're whining or crying. It's like you don't get that. There's no feedback there.
Yeah.
And so I had to start, like, giving my own internal feedback.
I think that's a great point. I actually just did an Instagram reel on this, how, like, your kids, they don't care about your title, they don't care about how much money they
No.
make. They legitimately all they want is you.
Right.
That's legitimately all they want. They just want to know that they are important and
Right.
that they are the priority, that they can get the attention they need. Of course, when you have young kids like us, it's not always easy to give.
Right.
So I can completely relate to what you're saying. I know something that I struggle with. Sometimes it's less about what I feel I tell myself. I struggle with the story that I tell that other people will judge me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's uncommon. Like, for some reason, I know I struggle personally with the concern that if I were to take a step back in my career, that all of a sudden other people would take notice of that and wonder what happened.
Mm.
And I don't know if that's a ego-driven way of thinking of it, but it is something that I often wonder if other people feel held back from
Oh,
is not necessarily me, but how I think others will perceive me.
and what do you think their perception? Like you said, they'll wonder what happened. Like, what
Yeah,
what will they wonder?
yeah, like, I mean, I'll be blunt, like, sometimes I think about, "Gosh, well, what if support now doesn't work?
Sure.
Like, what if we can't make it a commercial success?" And I go to plenty of therapy for this, by the way, and I wonder if people will think less of me.
Mhm.
"Oh, she wasn't successful," or "She couldn't figure it out. She tried really hard, but it didn't work." Like, the failure label, I think, is what's very difficult for me. And it's just like it's I do this exercise with myself pretty frequently where, like, on a
Mhm.
weekly basis, I tell myself, "Okay, so what?"
Yeah.
But I do think that there's a lot of working women that are out there living their life based off of the fear of it not working
Uh-huh.
versus living for, "Well, I'm just gonna live and do the things that I want to pursue
Right.
without fear of what could happen." So is
Mhm.
that something you see with some of the women you work with?
Yeah, I think a lot of high achievers especially are motivated, if that's what we wanna call it, or worried about the fear of failure. But then I think that's where the conversation goes, well, do you enjoy the work that you're doing? And are you fulfilled generally on a day-to-day basis? Because then, Jordan, even if support now were to fail, you would probably look back and go, well, I met a ton of people. I grew my network. I learned how to create this online platform, and I think if you like what you're doing, whether it's with kids or career, and you feel, I'll say 80% fulfilled by that, then I think that's the
Yeah.
win. And then there is really no failure.
I agree. I think something that my husband has coached me through is he often tells me whether it is or it isn't. Like, would you look back on this chapter and say, "I wish I didn't do it?" Like,
Exactly.
of course not. You're so glad you did. Look at all these things that has happened as a result of it. Like,
Mhm.
there's an old Chinese proverb that I talk about all the time about the Chinese farmer. Like, you don't get to know what's happening next. It's like this
Yep.
this question of, well, you know, good news or bad news. It's like, well, we don't know. We don't know what certain doors closing and what that means for other doors opening, et cetera, et cetera. And so, if you live your life waiting for like a certain person or a consensus to build that something is good or bad, you're not really living. You just have to keep going. That's what
Mhm.
life is. It's just like the pursuit. Like, it's this
It is the pursuit.
pursuit.
Yeah, you're right.
So I really thank you for allowing me to go down that track.
Mm.
One of the questions I have for you though is how does the line of work you do impact how you parent?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I hear from so many women, and specifically women who I'll say have gone before me, like their life experience has evolved more than they're older than me, and they will say things like, it all goes so fast. Like I feel like I hear that like daily lately, and I'm like, okay, I get it, but
Sure.
I think the work that I do, I get a lot of perspective from a lot of different people, and many of, like I said, who are either farther in their careers than I am, or they're farther just on their life journey than I am. And I think like, that perspective of time and, like, you have time, like, chill out, lady. I think that has really helped me parent. I give the example of the summer. Like, I don't think Molly a few years ago would have been able to, like, be this present this summer and quote unquote slow down with my kids, had I not been exposed to the work that I do. Because I see so many women who look back and, almost with regret. They're like, it's done now, and my kids don't want to hang out with me anymore. And I missed it because I was working. And like
Uh-huh.
that kinda rocks me. So I'm like, "Okay, I will be present this summer and beyond summer too," but
It's so interesting that you said that because I am also one of these people that rolls my eyes when people say time slow down or
I know.
time's a thief and all that. And it's not to say that I don't believe that. I do think that women or moms like us that had kids so close together, especially during COVID, we've had a very different experience than a lot of other
Yeah.
mothers out there. And again, it's not to say that one is better or worse, but I do think what we have experienced is quite different where we parented our children, especially our first two, in such unique circumstances where we were with our kids all the time because of the
Mhm.
pandemic.
Love that.
And there was no break from your kids. I've joked often with my husband that like time doesn't need to I've spent plenty of time with my kids through COVID and through post-COVID. I mean, it's such an unusual chapter that we've been through.
Mhm.
And at the exact same time, last night when I was putting to sleep my 5-year-old, it was truly one of the first times I looked at her and I thought, "Wow, she's never gonna be this age ever again."
Mhm.
It was seriously the first time I ever had I never felt that with my oldest.
Yeah.
It was something about, like, the way she was talking to me and looking at me, and I thought, "I'm never going to have another 5-year-old girl."
Uh-huh.
And, like, it is this strange dynamic that we all have to carry of, like, moving our lives forward, filling that personal fulfillment, professionally and personally,
Yep.
while also, like, cherishing this, like, these fleeting moments, and it's so hard,
It's hard.
and I don't know that any like, it's like, do we all I think no one figures it out, everyone just does the best they can, right?
They do, and I just think it's like a dance. Like, because if I
Mm.
was with my kids 24/7 like we were in COVID, I would not be a good human. Like, I'm like you, Jordan, I'm like, "Okay, time slow down, really?" Like, you
I
know
was like, "Time speed up." I can't
I'm like,
do
"Can we all get to age 5 so we can, like, do
well, I can
something?"
I at least get them potty trained? Like, come on.
Yeah, and so but I just think it is a constant dance because I am like, a all or nothing person, and so I can swing my pendulum so far and go into, like, work, hustle, let's go, foot on the gas, like, shut my office door, don't wanna talk to anyone. I can kinda go to those extremes, and I think that's really what I've learned in my line of work and just as a parent is, like, the pendulum has to swing, and the dance has to be a dance because every season demands something different.
I love that analogy because I love analogies that are highly visual like that.
Yeah.
Because it's like we're always it's not one or the other. You're just kind of it's a constant state of movement, and I
Uh-huh.
think that that's a beautiful visual to end on. Molly, I have loved this conversation again. Thanks for the free therapy, and I think our listeners got a good glimpse of the value you provide. And where can people find out more information about you, learn more about you, or if they're interested in becoming a client, where can they find you?
I have a podcast. Jordan was interviewed on it, so go check out her interview. It's called the Dream It, Do It podcast, and that's I bring on a lot of my clients to the show and a lot of like tactical conversations too about career transition or redefining success for the chapter that you're in. A lot for like women in career. Otherwise, you can go to mollyasplin.com. That's my website with more about me.
I love it. And your Instagram handle, if you don't mind.
Yeah, my Instagram is molly.asplin.
Awesome. Molly, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Again, always good to talk to another entrepreneur and mom that's doing all the things. Truly inspired by the conversation and look forward to more conversations.
Awesome, Jordan. Thanks for having me.